What we've got here is failure to communicate.
Hey, I'm UFC President Dana White, and you're in the ring with Callum McGregor.
To me, the Lions are the #1 rankings out there. Those guys are the ones who really do their homework, you know what I mean?
But this fight, I'm telling you, it's a flip of a coin.
We did not tap.
Let's go! Let's go!
Edition late in the week, coming off a big pay-per-view, and I think we got used to maybe having weeks off that we were slacking a bit, or maybe just that we don't make money doing this and it's a passion project, and we also have lives going on in the background that are a little important. So as we go through these fights, we're going to go through really quickly. I'm not going to be breaking down things in detail, which means Nick's not going to be going in depth and in detail the way he does. So we are going to just sort of chop up a couple fights. And then, Nick, I do implore you, actually, if there is one fight specifically that you want to chop up a little bit more, have at it. But I think we both have our picks and plays as all the lines are out and the fights are tomorrow. So last minute plays, let's roll. So Calvin Kattar versus Arnold Allen in the main event. Calvin Kattar 23-6-0 against Arnold Allen 18-1-0. Kattar coming in at minus 105 right now. Allen now looking to be the favorite in this situation. This goes back and forth. The one thing I see in this fight, and I'm going to be quick, it's a volume thing. It's I just think that Kattar's leaps and bounds not leaps and bounds. I shouldn't say that. That's Arnold Allen is just that guy that pulls out wins. Solid striking, some good takedowns, but when it comes down to it, I think the volume is going to be the issue. I think that the Kattar's volume is the issue for most people, let alone someone who has a little bit lower volume. And if people watch Arnold Allen's last fight where, he goes in and finishes Dan Hooker. So when we have Arnold Allen go in and finish Dan Hooker, who a lot of people are sort of finishing, he lands 1,000 strikes right as he's mauling him. And anybody who just saw that fight, they'd be like, oh yeah, he throws a lot of strikes. No, he doesn't. So my plays on this fight are Calvin Kattar 4 or 5 or by decision. So a late finish or decision plus 175.5 units. Kattar, most strikes landed, minus 155, 1 unit. Your play?
Yeah, so this one's obviously like probably the top of the conversation because in all fairness, it's the only real good high level fight on this card. I agree with you. I think recency bias is a real big thing playing into Arnold Allen.
Agreed.
Although that being said, I think there's a lot of narratives that people have yet to explore in this fight. And I just think it comes down to the fact that, is Arnold Allen actually ready for his coming out party, or are we going to see Calvin Kattar come out and weather the storm that we may see from Arnold Allen and just take over as he tends to do? Or is Calvin Kattar taking too much damage and all of the wars he's been in, because every fight he's in is a war. There's never a clear, decisive decision. Maybe Giga, but
that's something that you can't bet on, right? That's something that you can't bet on. It's just like Dillashaw's shoulder out. Like you can't bet on maybe him finally being weathered. He didn't show weather in his last fight, so.
And that's what I mean. So I think stylistically, if you look at both these guys, they're both going to be hesitant coming in. And honestly, I like the over. I think this fight goes the distance. And the over 4.5 right now is sitting at minus 150. I think that's the only play I'd make on this fight. I personally can't make a pick. Right now, I use DraftKings for the most part. Allen's sitting at a minus 115. The return on Kattar, minus 105. It's a pick and fight, and the reason why this line has jumped so many times throughout the week is because there's people like you and I who come out here and we talk, and most people don't really know what the fuck to do with this fight because it is literally the definition of one of these scraps where like it's perfect matchmaking. So that's it. I'll take the over, and I'll
let you jump in there quickly. I have Kattar into the parlay that I had built. It's more of if you're on the Kattar side of things, if you think he's going to win the decision, and there's also an option to leave him out and what the plus money will be on that. But continue, sorry.
Yeah, it's just I think for what you're going to get, if you're going to put any of these guys in a parlay, as I said, I think the over is probably your play because as I said, minus 150 for the over 4.5. It's not really that many points above what you're getting on a money line for either one of these guys, and neither one of these guys has historically been finished. Like especially Calvin Kattar, the dude takes an absolute shit kicking, and Arnold Allen isn't defensively enough sound where I don't think Kattar's boxing is going to be able to take him out. So,
okay, you know what? Even on my personal play, I'm actually going to change that too. That's a smart fucking way to approach it. Go to the over. and we'll roll with that. And this is how we'll slowly change the parlay. But Calvin Kattar, if you think it's going to go the distance, would you agree he's going to land more strikes?
Yeah, like I think
So
you
the
would,
over and
see, here's the thing though, like if you want to look at this from a statistical point of view, you're going to get contradicted, unfortunately, because you figure Calvin Kattar lands about 6 strikes per minute with Arnold Allen only landing 3. But on the reverse side of it, Calvin Kattar absorbs about 8 strikes per minute, where Arnold Allen only absorbs 2. Once again, the Max Holloway fight heavily plays into these stats, but
yeah,
I would
I
agree
mean, that's the thing,
Kattar is
right?
the
So
more
I was
active
going to mention that
fighter.
earlier. It's I know we're going back and forth there, but that is why I think he's getting a little bit, like the line is a little bit where it is right now because of still that fight, because he's been beaten up by Max Holloway. But that's Max Holloway, and the volume is not even the same thing. So it's great that he absorbs 8, but I don't know how opportunistic Arnold Allen is in that scenario. Like, he doesn't seem to throw that volume. I mean, who knows, man? Maybe he gets confidence off his last knockout and he comes out and throws a shit ton of volume. We may be surprised here. It'll be interesting.
Yeah, for sure.
Next
And
fight,
honestly, there's a lot of sharp money coming in on Calvin Kattar. Like you see a lot of the big cappers in this scene that have really been kind of laying down on the fact they think that Kattar should be the guy. So I don't hate for anybody taking it. I said I wouldn't take the line on DraftKings, but you can get like plus 115 on FanDuel, and there's tons of books where you can get plus money on Kattar right now. So if you can find one of those books, I would. I wouldn't hate anybody for taking that if you got the plus sign next to it.
okay, co-main event, and this is where the drop-off happens. As far
Quickly.
as, you know, I'm fishing right now, right at the drop-off. I'm gonna catch me some pike up here. Tim Means 32, 13 and 1 against Max Griffin. Max Griffin looks pretty sound at times, decent striking, solid wrestling. Tim Means, scrappy fighter, dog, fight for your money. I don't have a play on this. I'm not going to play on this because Tim Means could show up and be the dog that fights for your money and wins it late or wins by decision in a crazy fight. There's just no line here for me that makes sense. This is just a stay off for me. I think as far as a pick, I'm actually going to lean Griffin just for momentum purposes and whatever else. But I'm not touching this one.
Yeah, I gotta agree, man. Like I went back and forth on this one. Thought for a while that Tim Means would be a good dog play for the week. Ran the tape. He's old. He gets hit a lot. Max Griffin could easily come out and KO him. And the thing is, Tim Means usually has a height and reach advantage a lot of his fights. Not gonna have it here. And I think this fight's gonna be close, man. And I said I don't like the over. I don't like the money lines. This is a greasy card, and this is a fight I stay away from.
Okay, Waldo Cortez Acosta, Jared Bandera. This is going to be another fight I'm staying off of completely. We can say that we like Acosta and think he's a world beater. I say prove it. And the unfortunate thing is, even if he comes in here like a world beater again, he still hasn't proved anything to like, for me, beating Jared Bandera. Some poor fight IQ, soft as far as, I don't know, man. He just seems to play into what should be some of his strengths, and then he gets beat in submissions, and I'm just not a fan of it. Not wanting to play it. People are on Acosta a little bit, but this is a show me spot, but it's not a show me spot. So I'll just wait to see Waldo Acosta maybe steamroll through him and then go to the next one, or maybe Bandera pulls out a victory for the first time in however long, and I just don't care. So that's where I'm at. What's your play?
I personally think this fight's honestly gonna suck. Like,
Yeah.
I don't really see this being entertaining at all. I think the best play in this fight's the over 1.5 because Waldo tends to grapple a lot and he's going to hold Jared up a fair bit. And Jared kind of just swings wild, but really doesn't know what to do with.
But as we're going, like, we're doing quick hits, right? So no play.
Yeah, well,
no,
no, straight up, I like the over 1.5. I
Oh,
think
that's your plays.
yeah, I really like the over 1.5 because for greasy heavyweights, you're not getting that bad of a line on it.
Okay, fair enough. Tresean Gore against Josh Fremd. Josh Fremd, obviously a guy who hasn't had full success in the UFC, but he's everybody's darling right now. Everybody's, speaking his name this weekend. And I'm with it too. I think, what he did against Fluffy Hernandez, and that's sort of the benchmark everybody's using. He gave him the biggest test, and he really did. He looked good in that, and he made me sweat a little bit in that fight. So on the flip side, so I have a guy I'm really high on. If this was just going to be a fade with Tresean Gore, I'd stay off it. But I want to fade Tresean Gore all day long. I'm not a fan of him. His low volume just doesn't look good. Not the level. He comes in with a 3-0 record into the UFC, and it's just not not a good look. And he's not there yet, right? He's maybe Bellator, feed him some people, put him there, and call it a day. Fremd's gonna ride on him. I think he's gonna make him look really bad. I think Fremd is up at that level. I think he's gonna be a middling middleweight, and that's just the deal. So I don't think Trishan Gore's there. He's gonna put him out the pasture. So Josh Fremd inside the distance plus 140. I think this is a play. 1 unit.
I'm not big on Tristan Gore at all. I faded him hard against Brundage, and despite what people think about that fight, he still got clipped. I think he's getting absolutely destroyed in this fight, man. Like, I think Tristan Gore, and you've heard it on other podcasts as well, though. But I thought this after pretty much his last fight, like, they need to send this guy back to the regional scenes, man. He needs to get his confidence in. He just shows a lack of fight IQ, and with his opponent coming up, who has a fair bit of fight experience, I just think those holes are going to show through again. Like, he needs to be able to capitalize on these opportunities. And if you go back to his fights, like, he tends just to freeze up. He's only got like 5 professional fights. Like, and I don't know, man. I don't see this ending well for him.
And if it was just a fade of Trishan Gore, I wouldn't touch it. But I like Fremd on the momentum side, even though he's had some losses and his stock's gone up. And then I also think Trishan Gore is absolute tripe. I don't think he's even close to at the level. Sorry, I maybe have to articulate a little bit more. But yeah, inside the distance, plus 140. And now that we're both on agreement, is going to be a plus money podcast play. Next fight in the card, we have Dustin Jacoby against Khalil Roundtree. Dustin Jacoby is our podcast darling by decision. Although Dustin Jacoby sort of left me sweating a little bit last fight. He didn't look like he was in full control in his last fight. And there was moments where, I don't know. So at the same time, Khalil Roundtree is up, down, in and out. We don't know what we're going to get from him. That's fine. But when we're looking at this back and forth, Khalil Roundtree comes into fight week. He looks good. He looks confident. It's making me feel sketchy about it. It's making me feel sketchy about the decision. It's making me feel sketchy about a KO on the other side because Jacoby's Jacoby. And I'm back and forth. And instead of just saying Dustin Jacoby is a big play, I tried to find an angle on this. And I think Jacoby's, if he were to get knocked out by Roundtree, it's not going to be early. I think he's going to be able to work his game for a little while and maybe get caught later if Roundtree does get him out. And or it's going to be Dustin Jacoby late finish or decision. So I think over 1.5 minus 165 is my only play on this now. I'm not touching this any other way, and it's actually going to be parlayed up. I think it hits. I don't think Roundtree touches him early, and I don't think Jacoby goes for it early because he's not going to want to press on Roundtree too much and get hit. So I think over 1.5, that's the play for this one, minus 165. Just because I was back and forth on the way this could go. I could go on maybe the Roundtree KO. I don't know. What's your take on this? Dustin Jacoby, death taxes, Roundtree by maybe KO, or follow me on the line?
I'm pulling the straws here, but whenever I look back at the Maxim Grisham fight, Maxim Grisham kind of caught Jacoby twice, and Jacoby's been a breadwinner for me since the beginning. But Roundtree is this type of guy that if he shows up, I feel like he wins this fight 8 out of 10 times. Like, I think he's the rightful favorite if he actually shows up. Obviously, that's something that's going to be questioned and what Roundtree we get, but I'll take the dog shot on him, and I'm going to take the KO shot on him for sure. It's like plus 350.
I don't hate it.
And I said, man, it's just, if he shows up, the dude's going to look like a world beater. If he doesn't, well.
Like, I looked at this fight and thought about attacking it solo, but then it's like there's so many ways you can throw it at it. You're throwing at props and this and that. I'm like, you know what? I'm going to hit the over, leave it alone, because I just know this is going to be the fight that fucks me hard. So I just stayed away from it. But I do like your angle because you saw the same thing I saw with regards to Jacoby. Sort of scared me, man. He had me sweat. Right. Roman Dolidze against Phil Hawes. I have a play on this one. Roman Dolidze doesn't really get finished. Phil Hawes does finish some people, but also gets finished himself, has some decent wrestling. I'm not going to get into the breakdown of this. I'm just looking at a line that, based on wins and losses and how guys have finished the fights. I like Dolidze finish only, plus 135. And I like it so much that I'm going to throw a unit on it. And yeah, man, I think that's a play. And actually that's part of the parlay, because with the parlay, it's a push. I just don't see him getting finished in this fight. If it goes to decision, it could be one way or the other. And I think that if he wins, it's probably by knocking out Phil Hawes. It's maybe a fade of Hawes and a little bit of recency bias on Dolidze, but I like the finish only. I think it's a good place to put your units. What are you thinking?
I'm going to give it a sec. I'm going to read straight from what I said in the group chat earlier today, because I feel like it is a great way for how to describe this fight. And it's straight up from a comical point of view. If you're a fighter, blah blah. I'm just talking shit at this point. But where the fuck is it? Just give me a
You
sec.
got to get to the punchline faster, then it's not funny.
I know. That's the thing.
No,
I wasn't prepared. I thought you were going to talk for a
you're
little
the
while.
Brendan Shaw. You're the Brendan Shaw of comedy here, bud.
So a friend of mine asked me in a group chat earlier who would pick over Hawes or Roman, and I said I wouldn't bet this fight, to be honest. I said both guys are fucking awful. Hawes looked good against a midget with 0 striking defense, and Roman Delicias looked good against a dude who looks like he'd be the head of the debate team. This is how I feel about this fight. I said both have awful chins. Roman throws like 7 strikes a fight and hugs you. It does explain a lot why he's out there stealing other guys' girls. I'm like, bitches love cuddles. No offense, JP bias.
As funny as all that is, I'm gonna still. Delize, I would argue he doesn't really get finished, right? So I mean, just the way that all lines up with how that is, that finish only works for me. I mean, if it doesn't hit, it doesn't hit. But I just think that based on getting plus 135, Roma Delize, it is a little bit of a fate of Phil Haas. Because I think we used to back Phil Haas, and it's just not a smart thing to do. You just don't know what you're gonna get.
Both these fighters are hard to read. I agree with what you're saying on that, and on the flip side of it, Phil Haas by decision is like plus 350, and it's actually a relatively decent play because there's going to be a lot of grappling. I know I just talked some shit, but there's going to be a lot of grappling. Haas has shown great improvements. We got to see if it translates to this fight. So,
all right, next fight on the card: Joseph Holmes against Jung Young Park. Although I was initially leaning on the Jung Young Park side of things, that's going to be my pick. No play on my end on this one. I'm just going to sort of stay away from this. Joseph Holmes, I just don't know if he's quite at that level. I think Jung Park is a little bit of a notch above him, and I think this is a big step up for him. What's your take on this one? I have no play on this absolutely at all.
I think Jung Park's probably my lock of the week, and that says a lot given the magnitude of this card.
What's the line currently sitting at?
I think it's just minus 145 last time I checked for
Okay, you know what? That's a good play for you. That's awesome. I'm gonna still stay off it, but then that's a good differentiated play. Then that's
well, let me double check that to make sure it's not blown out of proportion here.
I thought it was bigger. I thought it was. That's why I was sort of staying away from it.
Oh yeah, you're right. He's minus 215. It's just I honestly, you and I cashed on Holmes a couple times, right? But it's just I think this is such a huge step up.
And I think he's gonna get beat up.
Yeah, I don't think it's gonna be ugly.
For minus 250, I don't know what the win condition is. Does he get beat up for 3 rounds? Does he get taken out? And then I'm gonna try to find an angle and then lose everything on it. No play for me. So Andrei Arlovsky, 34-20-0. Marcus Rogerio de Lima. Sorry, I got something in my throat. Clear that out. 19-8-1. Marcus Rogerio de Lima. So we look at it with this fight. I think a lot of people are splitting hairs on this one, thinking that maybe Andrei Arlovsky by decision is not going to happen this time. Finally, De Lima finally catches him, and this and that. I disagree, and I'm just going to go with what's been happening. I'm not going to go with how people view the matchup might be and the power of De Lima and how this might play out and how they angle it, because that's going to get you in shit, and it's got me in shit many times. I'm going to go with what's been happening. I'm going to go with what's trending. I'm going to go with data. Data tells me that Andrei Arlovsky is going to win this fight by decision, plus 251 unit. Yeah, he's the dog, but I just don't really, looking at the last 10 fights, both guys, I just don't really see how this is lined the way it is. Andrei by split decision is plus 1100. It's not like he's had a couple of recent split decisions, and he's had maybe 5 or 6 in his whole career. But why not take a shot on that? That's 0.5 units. Split decision, Andrei Arlovsky by decision, plus 250, 1 unit. Your play?
100%. Couldn't agree more, man. This is one of those things we talk about all the time, man. It's just going back to the well. At the end of the day, if Andrei Arlovsky loses the fight, man, I've made money hand over fist on Andrei Arlovsky. Literally, the first UFC poster I bought was Andrei Arlovsky and Tim Sylvia. Like, I have been backing this guy since day one, and I don't care much for De Lima at all. Like, this is a round 1 or bust. I'm gonna bet it. There's a decision of plus 300 because that's what it is on DraftKings. And if he gets shit kicked in the first round and still standing there at the end of it, I'm gonna bet it again because we know De Lima has dog shit cardio. So give me Arlovsky and give him the Arlovsky by decision.
Chase Hooper 11-2-1. Steve Garcia 12-5-0. This could be a little bit greasy, I'm going to be honest with you, but I just think on the ground, Chase Hooper leaps and bounds. Even with his reach and everything else, I think he's going to probably be the side on this. It's not a strong play for me. But Hooper inside the distance minus 140, 0.75 units. That's going to be my play. I just don't know if he TKOs him on the ground or submits him on the ground. Maybe he doesn't at all and Garcia dogs it out, but I'm just, that's what I'm going to play.
Yeah, I think Hooper's kind of a lock on this card as well. Like Steve Garcia, he had that weird fight with Antiveros where he got dropped badly twice, and Antiveros does what Antiveros does and just completely faded. But yeah, I think Hooper's shown leaps and bounds and improvements, and I think once again it's kind of just a show me fight. So, but I agree with you. I like the inside the distance prop because I know a lot of people are reaching trying to get that plus like 400 on the TKO, but the submission's always going to be more live than that. So it's a good parlay piece.
Sounds good. Next fight on the card we're going to jump now. Cody Durden against Carlos Mota. Cody Durden coming at 13-4-1 against Carlos Mota. Debut 8-1-0. Really, if you look at these guys' records in most recent history, a lot of finishes on both sides, one way or the other, losses or wins. My only play on this, because I think Mota probably comes in and actually beats up Durden. I actually think this could happen. That could be a pick, but my play on this fight, and I'm going to keep it nice and simple, is going to be under 2.5 minus 155. And that'll be 0.75 units, and that's also going to go into parlay. That's my personal parlay. We'll agree on an actual parlay for the actual full podcast, but I think under 2.5 hits. I think one of these guys gets the other one out. I think it's going to be a sloppy car wreck. I don't see it getting to the end, and that's just about it.
Yeah, I took a shot at Durden at plus 145. Like the winner of this line opened, Durden was the favorite, got heavily steamed, switched the other direction. I just think that Durden's grappling opposed to Mota. Like I do like Mota. I know him from the LFA and everything. I've been following this guy's career for a while. But he has shown issues with grapplers and gas tank issues because he tends to finish fights early, and as they get extended, he tends to slow down. Durden is known for having relatively decent cardio. And if you're going to give me a UFC vet against a guy with no UFC experience, I'm going to take the plus money. Not a sharp angle. Excuse me. I wouldn't heavily invested on it, but I'll take Durden.
No, but that's a good angle
money.
and a good way to look at it, brother. And that's part of the reason why I sort of stayed off a pick, because I think I like Mota, but then also what you just said is more sound, a more sound play. So it's just for me. That's why I think I'll take the angle of the under and call it a day and enjoy it. But
yeah, I think that hits, man. I think it's a smart way to play this one.
Yeah, so I think we'll keep that as a podcast play. Next fight on the card, a lot of people are fading this man, and I actually picked him on the Dana White Contender Series last year because he's a dog that fights for your money, and I almost thought about making this a preferred play just because of the plus money, but now money's starting to come in on Joshua Weems. So as the money's starting to come in on Joshua Weems, by this goes up, I mean, it's not going to be a suggested play for anything because I think the line's not going to be where I'm carrying to touch it. If it was just outlandish and Weems lands a punch and submits the guy or whatever, out of nowhere, whatever, that's fine. It was like plus 350 or something, or plus 500 inside the distance at one point. It's probably getting a little bit more chalky at this point, at least in comparison anyways. But Christian Rodriguez is likely to decide in this. I'm just sort of saying the angle I was trying to find in this and that maybe some of you were trying to find, because there's no real angle anymore on this. The line's too wide. Christian Rodriguez likely runs through Weems in this one. Just based on stuff we've seen, I'm sort of fading myself in this because part of me wants to take a shot on Weems. I like the guy. I actually like the dog in him and how he fights on tape. But regardless, Joshua Weems, welcome to UFC. Maybe a loss, but at least you get a couple more chances to redeem yourself and maybe a better matchup for yourself moving forward. But I'll take Christian Rodriguez as the pick, but I'm not touching this.
Yeah, the only small play I'd honestly get contemplate on this is the under 1.5 is sitting at plus 140, and I don't hate it at all because I think Christian Rodriguez comes in here. I think to blast that double leg, and I think that he tries to make a statement in this one. I don't hate him. I said Weems is a good striker too. Like he's probably could be able to come out here and throw some bombs and make him regret his decision early. So I don't suggest parlaying this on the money line like minus
that under isn't bad,
395.
man. That under isn't bad because Weems could come out guns blazing, land it or not, and then get hit. So he gets hit, one or the other happens. Or if Rodriguez shoots a takedown, Weems' win condition maybe could be a dry submission. Now that would be his only thing, way shot out in left field. Rodriguez is likely going to finish him early. So it just gives you the play on whatever miraculous thing happens.
And
when
I
they're
always
not-
find, man, fighters come out guns blazing in the first fight of the night. Unless you have like a women's MMA fight where you kind of expect it's going to go later, they still come out guns blazing. Finishes are just less likely. But as the first fight of the night, people always come out because they know that they're at the bottom of the list to get bonuses. So they got to make a statement and they got to make it early so that people remember it. So these are two guys that have that type of style where they can really make this first fight of the night very exciting.
Okay, so if you were to recap your personal preferred plays, what would they be?
I like Chase Hoover inside the distance. I'd go pretty heavy on the fact that he's going to win inside the distance. I like Phil Hawes by decision plus 300. I like Khalil Roundtree inside the distance because you're getting good plus money on that. Preferred plays are definitely going to be Josh Frem to beat Tristan Gore. Minus 155, I think, is a good play. And Calvin Kattar, Arnold Allen over 4.5, sitting at minus 150.
Okay.
And my dog in the night play is Andrei Arlovsky by decision.
Yeah, I think that's a great dog, and I think that'll be the podcast dog as well too. So I'll just go through my plays quick. Hooper inside the distance, so that's going to be the podcast play. We agree. I have 0.75 units. That's where I'm going to value it at. The lead say finish only 1 unit, just because I think the risk of losing my money on that is a little bit low. 1 unit, and if it hits, it hits. Also, I'm going to be throwing that in the parlay. But we'll talk about that in a second. Andrei Arlovsky decision plus 251 unit. Andrei Arlovsky split decision plus 1100.5 units. Josh Fremd inside the distance podcast play now plus 140 1 unit. And then I will get into Calvin Kattar 4-5 by decision plus 175.5 units, and Kattar most strikes landed minus 155 1 unit. So the parlay is actually going to be the Durden Moda under 2.5, the Leadze finish only, Roundtree and Jacoby over 1.5, Kattar money line, and that gets you plus 1112. If you want to get rid of Kattar because you don't believe in him, that gives you plus 521 and roll with that. If you want to go with what I don't have it calculated, but I would imagine it's pretty close to the plus 1,112. It's going to be the over on the Kattar fight. So if you want to add the over on the Kattar fight instead of picking a side and add that to the parlay, you're sitting up over plus 1,000. So that would be a parlay that I would be throwing out there. As far as our official plays, I think we got Hooper inside the distance minus 140. Arlovsky's our darling dog, and I'm going to throw out the split decision as our official big prop parlay. Fremd inside the distance is our darling as well too. And I think we don't need to put out crazy, just specifically podcast parlays. We're split on both sides on some things. We got a couple that we like in the middle. I think we'll leave it right there, sir.
Yo, side note, because we always want to be ahead of these lines. I think Nikolai Mariano, can't say that guy's name, completely smashes Carl Dahlberg next week. And the line's moving to the point where he's going to be a favorite. Right now, he's sitting at a plus 105, but that line is not going to be there by the time we talk about this next week. He's going to be the favorite. I can almost bet money on that. So if you listen to this podcast, jump on that line while you're still getting that plus sign next to him, because I think he comes out there and just destroys him.
Okay, sounds good. All right, brother. If we likely will have a podcast up earlier than this next week, but it likely won't be before Halloween. So I will say early happy Halloween to you, sir. Happy Halloween to all the people listening in the Don't Tap podcast universe. I think we got like 30 now. We went from 20 now we got 30. I actually know that we're trending up pretty much on the YouTube channel. I'm going to start sharing some of that stuff with you, but
let's go.
The numbers actually are starting going up pretty well. We will be dropping a special Bellator predictions. It's 2 pay-per-views ahead, or 2 events ahead. We have Aaron Jeffrey and we have Josh Hill breaking down some picks. For that, I am Callum McGregor. He's Nick Eagleye. We like to break down tape, have fun doing it. If you don't like it,
What we've got here is failure to communicate.
Hey, I'm UFC President Dana White, and you're in the ring with Callum McGregor.
To me, the Lions are the number 1 rankings out there. Those guys are the ones who really do their homework, you know what I mean?
For this fight, I'm telling you, it's a flip of a coin.
We did not tap.
Let's go! Let's go!